So to get us started, I'd like to introduce Caleb Schaefer. Caleb is the EPA Portland Harbor team lead, and he'll be sharing some general site updates with us this evening. EPA will also be available to take questions on the site updates during the optional breakout room part of the meeting from 7 to 8. So we do ask that you please hold your questions until then. So Caleb, if you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Alyssa, and good evening, everyone. And thanks again for being here tonight, the collaborative meeting. We will put a link to this fact sheet in the chat. And like Alyssa said, if you have questions or want to talk about it further, we have a breakout room. It's titled Superfund and Portland Harbor 101 that Mady Novak and Wes Thomas, who just introduced themselves, will be in, that can answer questions and talk further about it. I have about seven updates tonight. The first is on Cathedral Park. Many of you have heard this, but wanted to make sure and announce it in this forum that EPA will be continuing remedial design in the Cathedral Park project area. So as many of you know, EPA started remedial design work at Cathedral Park to ensure that this high priority project area wasn't delayed. This really allowed EPA to do some important work like the beach sampling that many of you were involved in and were able to come down and see during the open house. EPA has decided to continue this important remedial design work, and we have committed to complete the full remedial design for the Cathedral Park project area. So we look forward to building upon and completing the cleanup design work that we've really already started and continuing to make progress in this project area, which we know is one of the only public access areas to the river and an important area that makes progress. The second update I have is on the community impacts mitigation plan. And if folks were here a little earlier, Laura talked a little bit about this, but just want to touch upon it briefly again. A reminder for folks what the community impacts mitigation plan is. It identifies, it's essentially going to be a document that identifies the cleanup activities and works to reduce and manage them, specifically impacts to the public. It'll also identify how those impacts will be monitored, how they'll be communicated to the public. And so it's a very important document. This is what you see here is a timeline for completing that document. So we're scoping that document in 2022, 2023. And during our last collaborative meeting, if you were able to attend, you were able to help shape that and provide input. In 2023, we'll develop an outline of the plan. And then in 2024, we will create a final community impacts mitigation plan. We will also, in terms of next steps, we will work with the collaborative committee about putting this outline together and also the timing and gathering of feedback for that next step. We will, just to touch upon it, I know many of you were involved in this, but just to show you, I think we have the mural from the last collaborative meeting that we can pull up, and we can also put a link to in the chat so folks can be reminded, or if you didn't have a chance to participate in that, can see the early feedback that we've already received on this plan. And we thank those who did provide that feedback. It was definitely very valuable for us. If you do have any informal feedback in the interim before we come back formally to you, Josie Clark is an EPA RPM, is the lead on this effort, and she's happy to chat, and we will put her contact information in the chat as well. The third update we have for folks tonight is a technical one. It's about an errata that EPA is issuing. So an errata at a site is when an error has been found, and it's not uncommon at Superfund sites. They're so large, so complex, so detailed that sometimes mistakes are made. And we found a transcription error, essentially a typo, on one of the contaminants. So this site has 64 contaminants, and one of those contaminants, we call it hexa-CDF, or the long name for it is 1,2,3,4,7,8 hexachlorodibenzofuran, for those that are interested. So quite a mouthful. It's a furan. It's a contaminant of concern. It's a byproduct of combustion. It's commonly found in exhaust, things like cigarette smoke, anything where there's combustion, you can often find furans like this. And so it bioaccumulates, it causes health problems just like PCBs. And this error was essentially just a transcription error or typo. It doesn't change the risk level or the long-term cleanup level, but it does change the level where EPA would take remedial action. However, because it's co-located with other contaminants, we anticipate that this change won't affect the size of the cleanup. So overall, likely not a net increase or decrease either way. So we've issued this errata. This is the third errata that we've issued for the site. Hopefully we won't find any more errors, but this is the third one. We will document this change and we will provide further information, and we'll share a link in the chat to that so folks can look into that further and reach out to us if you have questions. The fourth update is on the Programmatic Institutional Control Plan, or as we also call it, the PICI app. And just a reminder of what this is, it's a plan that outlines all the activities and use limitations at the site. So for example, fish advisories, zoning restrictions, things that we term the institutional controls. And the purpose is to reduce people's exposure to contamination and to protect the remedy once it's in place. And so we anticipate that we will have this plan in late fall, most likely late October, and we'll publish a final programmatic institutional control plan. We anticipate revising the document prior to remedial action beginning. And so it'll be somewhat iterative, but we should have a relatively final version in late fall. The fifth update, just a quick one, a reminder for folks, we always like to highlight our Portland Harbor story map. If folks haven't heard, we also now reflect quarterly updates in the story map per the maintenance plan that we have for it. And so we just encourage folks to keep sharing this tool, using this tool. We put a link for it now in the chat. It's not just focused on the site, it's focused on the history of the area, the broader, it really takes a step back and looks at the overall context and not just the cleanup. So we're excited about it. We thank many of you for helping make it what it is, and we hope it to be a dynamic tool. So any feedbacks, thoughts, or suggestions you have on it, please reach out to us and let us know. The sixth update I have is we always like to highlight important public comment periods, and this one is a national public comment period going on right now. So last week, EPA announced that we are proposing two PFAS substances, so perfluoroalkyl substances, as hazardous substances under the Superfund law. And there's currently a comment period, and comments must be received on this proposal on or before November 7th of this year. We will put more information in the chat, linking to what these compounds are, what the comment period is. We will also put a link on where you can submit any comments by November 7th, if you'd like. And just to kind of bring it back to the site and its application to Portland Harbor, PFAS substances aren't currently a contaminant of concern identified in the cleanup plan, those 64 contaminants of concern. At Superfund sites, if there are emerging contaminants, cleanup that have been identified at the site, cleanup plans can be amended once national cleanup standards are developed. But none have been developed currently at this time for PFAS, but this proposed rule and the comment period that I just mentioned are working towards that possibility. The last update I have, somewhat of a bittersweet one for us and the team here, is I do want to announce that one of our Portland Harbor EPA remedial project managers Ben Lake will be leaving our team soon. There's an opportunity to work on another site that's focused on radiation, which is a passion and interest of Ben's, and we always like to encourage internally EPA staff to pursue interests of theirs. So Ben has been one of 6 RPMs working on the site in the last few years. We really valued and appreciated him. He's made a significant contribution to the site, and we'll certainly miss him. Some of you may know Ben in working on Wilbridge Cove. He also helped manage our state and tribal grants, focused on source control, working with the state. So we will certainly miss him, and he has really contributed a lot to this cleanup. So we do thank him for that. We will have another Portland-based EPA RPM that we'll be hiring. That person hasn't been identified. We're still going through the process, and we look forward to working to get them up to speed quickly, as well as having them to start building relationships with the community. We've done such things as community coffee chats, and that will be a good opportunity to bring that person in and very quickly to start talking with the community. But I did want to just provide space for Ben to speak if he has a couple words, and say a fond farewell, perhaps, if you're okay with that, Ben.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Caleb, for the kind words. And as Caleb mentioned, it is bittersweet. I'll be working on something that's real interesting to me, but this has been a great project to be on. I've learned a lot, and I enjoyed working with the team we have internally, and also we have an engaged community that's passionate about the river, and that makes it a lot more fun to work on. And so I've appreciated all the kindness everyone has shown me, and patience as I've learned. And I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be living here and working in the same office. So if anything comes up, I'll be around. So you'll know where to find me anyway. So yeah, thanks everybody. I really appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Ben. Yeah, and Ben's graciously offered to help transition this new person in. The site, as we all know, many of you have experienced, it's a steep learning curve. So we're fortunate to have Ben help support the transition as well. So thank you again, Ben. So with that, I will pass it back to Alyssa.